to talk a little bit about inodes. And to understand it a lot better, you will need to watch a follow-up video where I'll give you a brief demonstration of looking at inodes. But first off, an inode is referenced by a number. An inode consists of metadata, such as a user ID, group ID, the device that the inode is saved on, the size of the file, and some other things. It also, the inode main purpose is to point the file or tell the kernel where to go to retrieve the data blocks. So, and it gets fairly complicated, but it says go to this particular location on the hard drive to find the blocks of data that make up the file. So, some commands that can be useful to you. df-i can show the amount of inodes available to you on your system. And so you can have a certain, when you format a file system using an ext format that we will talk about, there's a certain finite amount of inodes that are created on that file system. And thus, there's a certain finite amount of files that you can create on the file system. A couple things to keep in mind is you can run out of disk space before you run out of inodes, and you can also run out of inodes before you run out of disk space. In either case, if you run out of either one of those, you will no longer be able to create files. ls-lai can show you the inode number attached to a file. And then a brief word on links, and once again, watch the demo video. A hard link is where we have multiple entries in the file system table pointing to the same inode. Kind of think of it maybe as like a shortcut that you're used to in Windows, maybe. But basically, when in a hard link, if I have two entries pointing to the same inode, if I delete one entry, I can still get to my file by referring to the other entry. Versus a symbolic link is you have an entry in your file system table that points to another file name. And if you delete that intermediate file name, you can no longer access the file, hence you can no longer access the inode, hence you can no longer access the data blocks. So there's some terminology to get out of the way, and now we'll move on with the demo.